Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, all our viewers out there. We begin in Asia. A rebound in the markets over in Asia, led by Hong Kong. And this, of course, if you take a look at the figures, over 2% for the Hang Seng index. The Shanghai Composite Index over in mainland China up by 1.3%. Nikkei 225 in Japan, 0.74. The Kospi in Korea is closed. They got a public holiday there, so Korea markets are closed there. ASX S&P 200 up by 0.4%. Very quickly, part of the reason why we saw a rebound, of course, was the U.S. economic data coming out. The GDP revised to 3%, upwards of 3%. You also had the jobless claims. That is the number of people who are filing for assistance that don't have work, coming in under estimates. I think it was 231,000. The estimates were for 232,000. Still in the U.S., Dow Jones Industrial Average hit a new high. I think it's the 24th or 25th high so far this year, over 41,000 points. We're going to get some consumer sentiment data later today, as well as the Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation, the PCE, Personal Consumption Expenditure Index. So we'll see what those figures say later on today. A lot of technology today. Today is Friday, of course, so we focus a lot of tech on the Global Business Report. NVIDIA, apparently, as well as Apple, are looking to participate, this is according to the Wall Street Journal, in a new funding round for OpenAI. So if you look at some of the details, Thrive Capital is leading the way with about $1 billion, reportedly, according to the journal. OpenAI is seeking about $100 billion valuation. The last valuation that was done back in February, I think it got about an $80 billion valuation. So it's very rare for Apple in particular to be looking to invest in this. So Apple is very, particular about their investments, but you know that they are putting forward Apple Intelligence. We're looking forward to that event on September the 9th, where they will announce some of their new AI tools, and OpenAI is supposed to be in partnership with them as far as Siri is concerned. Microsoft, as you know, already has a big stake in OpenAI. They invested about $13 billion. So we'll see what comes out of this this funding round. Still on NVIDIA, remember we looked at their results yesterday. We had a short clip from Jensen Huang. He had a lot to say in that interview, but we had to pay you one particular clip. For today, focusing again on AI, listen to him talk about Blackwell, which is their new chip that is expected to ship in Q4. He compares it to the Hopper chip and talks about how it's like a child that's growing, right, from infancy to young adulthood, teenage years, how you spend more money as the child grows because they are learning more. So he talks about how Blackwell as a chip is supposed to be accumulating more knowledge. And listen to him say that AI is not just picking up human languages, it's also learning chemistry and physics. Take a listen.
With respect to demand, Blackwell is just such a leap, and there's several things that are happening. Just the foundation model makers themselves, the size of the foundation models are growing from hundreds of billions of parameters to trillions of parameters. They're also learning more languages. Instead of just learning human language, they're learning the language of images and sounds and videos, and they're even learning the language of 3D graphics. And whenever they are able to learn these languages, they can understand what they see, but they can also generate what they're asked to generate. And so they're learning the language of proteins and chemicals and physics. It could be fluids, and it could be particle physics. And so they're learning all kinds of different languages.
It's really incredible stuff. Now, remember, I played you a video, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where AI resurrected some musical icons in the Black community. They were on a runway. There's another one, and the key thing here is that this is a prompt from text. So somebody pretty much typed in, give me Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Michael Jackson, Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, put them in a garden with flowers. It's a text prompt, and it generated an image. This is to Kanye West, I wonder. All right, seeing Kobe Bryant, DMX, all those stars of the past, I kind of have to tell you, it made me a little emotional, as even when the video was trending online. Let's get to Nigeria now. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Heineken Lopobore, if you take a look at the front page of today's This Day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of record, top of the masthead, saying that he wants to, he's hopping in to address the issues of crude oil supply. I never hesitate to remind people that Dr. Abatia and myself interviewed the minister in Davos at the World Economic Forum. This issue is not going away. Take a listen to what he said back then in January about Nigeria's crude oil production and supply issues.
Let me say it categorically that we are doing maybe 1.4 something. So if you add the condensate of 350,000, we're already surpassing, a figure that's budgeted in our budget. So we have no difficulty, meeting what is contained in our budget. But I also want to say that our temporary inability to produce 2 million barrels of crude has nothing to do with capacity. It's because of, the problems we have with insecurity and our aging, infrastructure. And we're doing whatever we can to attract, investment.
So you got to bring the investment for the aging infrastructure. You got to address the insecurity with respect to how that is impacting oil supply. But also, that's the government side. What about the private sector? Again, I remind folks, if Mr. Lopobore, Honorable Minister Lopobore wants to address these issues, he's got to talk to the players in the sector. One more time, here is the head of the, this is the head of the Crude Oil Owners Association of Nigeria, talking to the issues of crude supply.
So, as I speak, we, the modular refinery owners in Nigeria, we are not getting any incentive from the government, not a single incentive. Dangote, you saw in the papers this morning that NNPC has supplied about 60% of the crude. We have not had even a liter of crude from NNPC, talk more of a barrel. So it is unfortunate that some of our members, they are currently getting frustrated with the business. In our own case, we are now having, after 3 years of starting the plant not being operational, is rusting away. We are at the point where we have to even buy some equipment for maintenance and all of that.
Finally, this news of Nigeria signing a safety and maintenance MOU with Boeing. I don't, you know what? This was, I read the news on the Global Business Report. I just wanted to share my reaction with you. Take a look. Nigeria and Boeing have inked a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, which will improve Nigeria's airlines' access to aircraft leasing as well as maintenance and technical assistance. Africa is expected to require about 1,170 aircraft over the next 20 years, according to Boeing. Boeing, ladies and gentlemen, which provides 500 aircraft to 60 airlines across the continent. Now, under the terms of the MOU that the Nigerian Aviation Minister Festus Keyamo and Boeing signed on Wednesday in Seattle, the manufacturer would offer planning, workshops, training, technical assistance, and assessments to airline operators in Nigeria. Boeing. I don't know what to say. Anyway, that's our updates for today.
A joke. I know where you're going at, because Boeing has very poor records, and we saw the scandal as regards standards that have happened in Boeing over the years. And those records date back to the 90s. You can go and watch how terrible Boeing has been. But the question also is, do we need skills transfer? Yes. Can we build that capacity with things like this? That's the flip side of it that I'm excited about. That can we build capacity? But I know what you're saying about Boeing. I know all that has transpired. Secondly, I'd like to talk to Mr. Lopobore. Isn't it shocking that today we are still dependent on condensate to be able to ramp up the numbers to over 2 million barrels, and you're saying insecurity, the same insecurity that NNPC report said they spent 1.7 trillion on, but we can't still get security right to be able to churn out over 2 million barrels per day. When we started talking a lot about condensate was in the early 90s, when we started talking about the Oso fields that were to give us a lot of condensate in. Since then, what have we done? What have we transited to? have we been able to open it up for new potential investors? How would even investors come in when we cannot look at the PIA and implement it properly? Even when the PIA was signed, they said it was already moribund. As regards tech and Silicon Valley and semiconductors, I think the song for you to play this weekend is Psy's song called Wopang Gangnam Style, which is a tribute to the Gangnam district in Korea that was built with Silicon Valley-like and semiconductor money.
Well, just very quickly, because of our time, I'll just say with regards to that, so the update on that call by the Minister of State for Petroleum, Heineken Lokbobere, is that in 2 days, we should get a report, and hopefully all stakeholders would be engaged to ensure that we finally find a solution to this almost embarrassing situation of the production of supply, of crude supply to local refineries in Nigeria. I think for me, that's one of the big things. But one thing I'd like him to also address is this incessant fuel queues. We've almost not, it's no longer a big deal or a big issue. I'm hoping that he'll be able to sort that out as well as part of his deliverables.
Okay, very quickly. Yesterday we talked about NVIDIA. Today, inflation. We're back to inflation video. European markets are rising by about up to 0.27%. Inflationary pressures have reduced in Germany and Spain, and Stock 600, which is the general Eurozone, stock market, indicator, has also done very well. Particularly as Germany, the status, reported yesterday that inflation in Germany is down to 2%. To just cite one example, the expectation was that it would be about 2.3%. It was 2.6%. At the end of July. So there's that improvement. What does this all tell us? Is that maybe European Central Bank is going to cut rates. Similar concern in the United States. The PCE that you refer to is going to come in this morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But it's also about what the Federal Reserve is likely to do during its September meeting. So those are issues about the market and the inflation. The other issue that I would like to draw attention to is Elon Musk's ex-problem in Brazil. Justice Alexander de Moraes has frozen the accounts of Starlink and has slammed fines on X because they say X has no legal representative. And there's going to be an election in October 1, and the Brazilian authorities are saying, look, political misinformation cannot be allowed. But of course, there's division about whether Moraes is being vindictive or not. Thank you very much, Rotus.